So if you are at your National Speakers Association or a group of business consultants, don't run away from competition, collaborate, because you already know that they have clients that perhaps when they have finished all their speaking or consulting or coaching, it would be logical to pass on the client to somebody else who does something in the same basic genre, but a different service. So look at collaboration. Don't reinvent the wheel. So look at who can you collaborate with. Then don't overlook opportunity close to home. It amazes me, so many speakers and consultants and coaches think they're not big time unless they spend most of their life on an airplane. You do this for a while, it gets a bit old. So it's not that you're not going to travel around the world, but look at the opportunity close to home. I spent a lot of my life in the early years developing the reputation with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and Chamber of Commerce that if anybody called anything related to speaking, they automatically sent them to me. Now, sometimes it was someone looking for help. Sometimes it was someone who wanted a speech on something I certainly didn't offer. However, I had the reputation that I was the expert. And that's what you want to do. So volunteer, speak. Certainly get on committees that give you the opportunity to get to know people in your own community. Then, when you are networking at events, look at what can you do. When you're at a networking event, what is the question you are most frequently asked? What do you do? I recommend you do not answer with a company and a job title. I recommend you do something interesting that will lead to the question, how do you do that? Consider this. If I said, would it be helpful if every time you go out to a networking event, somebody says, will you please give me a 10-minute sales presentation on what you do? You'd probably say yes. And then I'd ask, do they ever do it? Well, of course not. If you answer, oh, I'm Patricia Fripp, I'm a professional speaker. Well, they might. However, if someone says to me, Patricia, what do you do? I usually answer, I make conventions and sales meetings more exciting. To which they say, how do you do that? I use the formula, you know how, well, result. So if somebody says, what do you do? I say, I make conventions and sales meetings more exciting. To which they say, how do you do that? I say, you know how companies have meetings that are supposed to be exciting, and they're often dull and boring. Well, I have some practical ideas. I present in an entertaining way. The result is people stay awake, have a good time, and still get the company's message. To which they say, oh, what do you talk about? How long have you been doing that? Do lots of people do that? Oh, actually, we have great meetings. The key to connection is conversation. When you have a conversation, it can lead to a relationship. A relationship that is nurtured may lead to business or friendship or referrals or collaboration. So by answering the question, what do you do in a more interesting way that in fact inspires people to ask, that is like giving a 10-minute free sales presentation. Then, of course, you ask them questions, and it's amazing how you often find a match. And, of course, you have to be sincerely interested in them as well. My partner, Alan Weiss, has a slightly different approach. What he does, if somebody says, what do you do? He says, I improve human performance. To which people say, well, how do you do that? And he says, I know that's very vague. Why don't you tell me about your business? And I tell you what I would mean in your industry. So you see, after one question, he immediately turns it around to them, and they start talking to him. So whatever approach you use, notice the one thing in common. You're not using a name and a title and a company. My friend, best-selling author Susan Rowan and I do something naturally that we both realized we need to teach as a technique. It is what we call travel with your own PR agent. Susan and I will walk into a venue. Might be a convention or visitors bureau. We separate, we come together, we separate, we come together. And as I walk up to Susan, and she's always talking to someone because she's a great conversationalist, she will say, "Oh, may I introduce you to my friend Patricia Fripp? She truly is one of the best speakers, coaches, and sales trainers in the country. In fact, Meetings and Conventions magazine said she's one of the 10 most electrifying speakers in North America. And Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine said the 6th best way to invest in your career is to attend her speaking school." And I'll say, "Oh, and I know Susan is far too modest to tell you. She's the best-selling author of 4 books. The Secret of Savvy Networking, How to Work a Room, What Do I Say Next, and How to Create Your Own Luck." And would you believe she's been on the front cover of the Wall Street Journal and USA Today? Now, you see what we do? We say about each other what you would not say about yourself in polite society. Now, think beyond the network event. Now, think beyond that specific networking event. What happens? The people you talk to go to work the next day. "Oh, what did you do last night?" "Oh, I went to the Convention of Visitors Bureau Mixer." "Was it fun?" "Yes, great venue, good food, and full of interesting people." "Really? Who did you meet?" "You know, I met the best sales trainer in the country and a best-selling author who's been on the front cover of the USA Today and the Wall Street Journal." You see, the people you talk to have become objects of interest because they found you objects of interest and talk about you. That's how you build a certain camaraderie and reputation in your own community.